What's good with y'all? It's your boy AD, and to be honest, Spider-Man PS4 is my most played game of 2019, and even though this is a news channel, so don't expect this too often, I feel like I should at least review the game because of the countless days I've spent no lifing it. And I do mean days. Since this is my first game review, I'm gonna start with pros, then I'm gonna go into cons, and then I'm gonna go into what I look forward to in the future sequels. Cause you know they're making a sequel. After seeing the numbers that Spider-Man PS4 put up as far as sales, outselling all these other games that are on both consoles, Xbox and PlayStation, and people know how I really dislike console exclusive games, because like if a kid has one console and the game comes out that's exclusively on another console, what do you think they're gonna do? Ask their parents for another console? Some kids just don't have it like that. So for them to put out games on just one console exclusively is kind of messed up, and I really do feel for the gamers with that. But enough of that, let me get into my pros. Now the biggest difference that makes this game one of the best Spider-Man games of all time is just New York being filled with actual people. Now I know you probably think that's crazy, but if you play all the Spider-Man games in the past, just swing around. You don't even have to swing around. Just walk around the street and see how many NPCs you see walking around. It's not going to be a lot, I'll tell you that. And for Spider-Man PS4, that's exactly the opposite. It kind of gives me that GTA sandbox level type feel, because with the NPCs, they're doing a lot of different activities. Like you could swing around a basketball court and they'll be playing basketball. You could swing around Times Square and you can see people performing. And also I like the quick time events where something could happen and you don't even have to do anything. The police will tell you, hey, we got this, Spider-Man. It gives me a feeling that I'm in a bigger world and it's not just me swinging around and wherever I'm at is where the one or two NPCs are at. No, Spider-Man PS4 gives you that feeling that the city is packed, is live, and is a lot going on, and you're just a big part of it. Next, I want to get into the swinging. Now, swinging is one of the aspects of Spider-Man games I just thought was really easy and really didn't like need any extra mechanics, because of how simple it is just to swing from building to building and make it look cool. But Spider-Man PS4 does something that I have never seen in another Spider-Man game, except for Spider-Man 2. But like, to be honest, I think people hold Spider-Man 2 on a level by itself, sometimes because of the nostalgia. I mean, it's a good game, don't get me wrong, but the graphics is just awful. I mean, going into the future, looking back on it, just gonna get worse and worse. So we really need to stop championing that game before we just need to get to a certain point in our lives where we be like, that game was good in its time, but now it's time to move on. And Spider-Man PS4 for me is that moving on. So what you think I'm probably talking about with the swinging is, with the swinging, I mean, you can control Spider-Man at any time, any point in your gameplay. So let's say you're swinging off a building and you can just do all type of flips. They have all type of combinations you can put together to make Spider-Man do all sorts of tricks and flips, and I really like the aspect of the game. Now another pro is every side quest feels valuable, and what I mean by this is, you remember the last Spider-Man game that a lot of people don't like to talk about? The Amazing Spider-Man 2 had this hero or villain system to where it always changed if you didn't or did complete a side event or a quick time event. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, except for when you get to the end of the game and you're just trying to swing around and quick time events keep popping up and popping up. And if you just ignore them, then it'll get to the certain point of the game where people will start coming after you, drones will start flying after you, they'll start putting up nets, so if you swing through, it's going to take away your ability to swing, and now you have to fight a group of enemies when you really was just trying to hop in the game and swing around. Now with Spider-Man PS4, it has those same quick time events, but if you don't do them, it's okay. Like if you do a couple here and there, you will get rewarded for it. And what I mean by that is these little research tokens, and there's a bunch of other tokens, I forget the names of them. But every single different quick time event, base event, or just little base hideout will give you different coins so you can upgrade Spider-Man, so you can unlock other costumes, gadgets, and just extra little things throughout the game that makes the gameplay more enjoyable. So I really like the aspect of making each side mission come with a reward instead of just having quick time events just to have them. Like, I'm not trying to stop a crime and they be like, oh, there's no reward for it, but thank you. No, I'm trying to get a reward for it. I'm spending time and stopping something. I want a research token. I want some type of reward. And for this game, it overly emphasizes on that and gives you rewards for your quick time event completion. And for the next pro, I have the suits. Now the variety of suits in this game is very unique. Like, I never would have thought I would swing around as a Ghost Rider / Spider-Man mashup in my life. Swinging around looking like Ghost Rider while having the Spider-Man mechanics is something that I never knew I needed. That suit for me was my favorite suit before the Scarlet Spider Kane version came out, which is my ultimate favorite because the black and red combination is just my all-time favorite Spider-Man suit. So I was really glad when I saw that in the first DLC that they was putting that suit into the game. But as far as the other suits, they were cool. Some of them were plain, some of them were pretty funny, like the Underoos. Speaking of Underoos, what's the point of Insomniac changing the names of the suits? Like, you know how the most controversial suit in the game, the Sam Raimi suit, everybody was really wanting that suit, but Insomniac took their time putting it in, so made fans think that they wasn't gonna put it in, so they started tweeting and stuff like that and like sending death threats. It was all type of bad. It was bad, but they ended up eventually putting that suit into the game, but they called it the web suit. Now I know it's nitpicky, but like, why not just call it the Sam Raimi suit? Maybe they're trying to dodge some type of, maybe they pulling a Fortnite. If they change the name, they don't have to pay certain people. That's definitely what I think it is. It's just a business decision, because why else would you change the name instead of just calling it the Raimi suit? But that's just a little tangent I had about the Sam Raimi suit and the people wanting that suit, because the way they went at those developers to get that suit in the game is just really uncalled for. My last but definitely not least pro in this game is definitely the detailed in-game fighting mechanics. When you see the move list of Spider-Man PS4, you're gonna think you just went into a pause menu of a Mortal Kombat game, because when I tell you this move list is extensive, I mean it's moves on top of moves, and some people may say, oh, it's really kind of basic, it's not that great. When you start experimenting with the different moves and the gadgets and suits, you're gonna find out it's more complex than it seems. All these different suits and gadgets change the way you fight, change the way you play, change the way you go into each situation and take out your enemies. So whenever I saw that move list, I was like, oh, it's gonna take me a little while to perfect this. And to be honest, it did take me a little bit. I got it down pretty quick, started doing the off the wall attacks, because those are my favorite. And it reminded me, when Spider-Man fights in the air, you can tell there was heavy inspiration from the Web of Shadow game. And for me, Web of Shadows had one of the best aerial combat mechanics in a Spider-Man game ever. So to see that implemented in Spider-Man PS4, you just knew they was taking the time with this game. And really, Spider-Man PS4 is just the best parts of all the old Spider-Man games put together. And for that, I think they did a really good job. Now, I don't have too many, but I do have some cons to go with this game. And for me, one of the biggest downfalls I feel like this game had was definitely the boss fights, because whenever I would fight somebody that was a boss, it just felt like I was fighting another, I mean, it didn't feel like I was just fighting another enemy, but you could tell that the gameplay mechanics for boss fights were not that deep, because when you get to a certain part in the boss fight, when you're just repeating the same steps over and over and over, and they add little to nothing throughout the whole fight, so it's just like you're doing the same thing over and over. And yes, boss fights in this game looks really cool, but when you really break it down from a gameplay mechanic, you're doing the same thing over and over. It's kind of simple, but I feel like that's what most Spider-Man games are, not to discredit any of the old ones, but I feel like the best boss fight ever done in the Spider-Man game was probably in Shattered Dimensions, when you got to the last fight, because it really brought the story together. And in Spider-Man PS4, it brings the story together, but the boss fight mechanics are definitely lackluster. For example, when you're fighting Martin Lee, when he's trying to get the Devil's Breath anti-serum, and when he goes Super Saiyan, brings out like a huge monster, and you have to fight him, that's pretty cool, but the mechanics kind of stayed the same. He attacks, you dodge him, you wait for him to power out, and you just fight him again. So for Martin Lee, he was a cool character. He had great visual effects, probably the best visual effects of any villain throughout this game. And when you fight him, well, you can tell the mechanics with him were gonna be playing throughout the game. Wait till he depowers and then beat him up. That was just kind of downfalls I came across with this game. And the next con is definitely the MJ missions. Now, I don't know about y'all, but the missions with MJ, when I was sneaking around, going from checkpoint to checkpoint, was probably some of the most boring moments of Spider-Man PS4. Now, Miles was okay, because you feel like they earned those moments with Miles. Like when Miles' dad dies and you're playing as Miles, getting to his dad to find out, that part was earned. But with MJ, every single scene with MJ just felt forced. Like, we know she's a reporter, we know she's supposed to get the scoops, the hot takes for her career, but like, she's not a superhero, and for her to be going around tasing people with full body armor and them just to go down is kind of unrealistic. But at the same time, MJ did bring a balance to Peter's character, because as Peter was kind of a downer and he was really a bum, to be honest. I mean, he got evicted. He's a grown man. I know he's a superhero and doesn't want to take money, but when it gets to that point, you just gotta start taking money. Okay, I just had to say that. But back to MJ. As a character, she was good, but from a gameplay perspective, using her in missions was just some of the most boring moments of Spider-Man PS4. And for the last con I have for this game, it's definitely the story being too predictable. I mean, you know your story is too predictable when you hide a key part of the story just because if you reveal who that person is, then people can find out the whole story. So when they were trying to hide that Peter was working for Doc Ock, you can just tell that after it was revealed that he was going to be the main villain, you already had in your mind how it was going to play out. Yeah, he was going to be like a father figure. He was going to teach Peter stuff about science. Peter was going to teach him stuff about science. He was going to figure out he was Spider-Man, and you knew all that was going to happen. The only misdirects or surprising moments in this game was when Aunt May died. With there being so many Spider-Man and Peter storylines, you just knew at some point somebody was going to say, you know, Aunt May is kind of old. Let's try to kill her off for emotional effect. And to be honest, it did work. So I'm going to say it did work, and I did like that misdirect. I did not think she was going to die throughout the whole game, and it really confused me on how Peter got mad when Doc Ock said he knew about Peter's identity, because then he would have knew about Aunt May, and so that added just another layer of the game for me. But that was the only time that I was like, oh, that's surprising. I didn't think that was going to happen. Now throughout the rest of the story, I just knew it was going to happen from the jump. I knew it was going to happen. At the end, I knew it was going to happen. Peter was going to be Doc Ock, and he was going to be like, you was like a father to me. Doc was going to, I mean, you just knew all that was going to happen. So for the story to be so predictable is definitely a con for me, because I want Spider-Man stories to be different and to surprise me a little bit. Like, I know this is a movie, not a video game, but Spider-Man to the Spider-Verse, when the first Spider-Man died, who knew that he was gonna die? Like, we knew Miles Morales became Spider-Man after Peter died, but we did not know that there were two Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse until we saw the movie. So that's just one of the things that I'm talking about. Like, Spider-Man PS4 can advertise things and not hide characters, but just do a better job at making the story unpredictable. So those are my pros and cons. So now I'm gonna get to the things that I look forward to in Spider-Man PS4. And for this list, I made it short because I have a lot of things I look forward to. So I'm gonna just get to my main ones that I'm really looking forward to. And for the first one, it has to be Venom, because Venom being the main villain of the next game, he might not even be the main villain, but if he's not, I'm gonna be disappointed. But Venom being the main villain of the next game definitely will up the stakes, because we know that Venom and Spider-Man matchups are pretty iconic. So for Insomniac to be going in that direction, for pitting Spider-Man and Venom against each other, it's just something I can't wait to see. And the whole Harry and Peter dynamic, I know they're gonna play off of that again. It's probably gonna be like the same Doc Ock, Spider-Man, Octavius, Peter relationship. It's probably gonna be like that, with Harry and Peter are close friends, with Spider-Man and Venom are arch enemies. So that's gonna be a little clash that they're probably gonna focus on. You already know the black suit's gonna be in the game, because the developers already came out. They said that the black suit needs to be more than just an extra suit you acquire in the main game, which may have been a shot at other games, because I know a lot of them do that. But for Insomniac, they can take all the shots they want, because really right now they're riding hot. So for the black suit, Venom, Peter, Harry, that whole dynamic of best friend, arch enemy, I feel like they're really gonna play off of that. And with Harry's dad being Green Goblin, I definitely think they're gonna have him in the game. Also with how they had the Martin Lee, Dr. Octavius dynamic, I feel like that's exactly how Venom and Green Goblin's gonna be, but maybe a little more up and down, because with Harry and his dad, you never know the relationship they're gonna have. They may fall off, they may not, but I bet that they fall off and get back together throughout the course of Spider-Man PS4 too. So for the next thing I'm looking forward to is other Marvel games that's gonna be made that will most likely tie in to Spider-Man PS4. You just know this is gonna happen, because with the Stan Lee cameo and Spider-Man PS4 being so noticeable as an MCU type cameo, we just know that Marvel's going in that direction, especially with them partnering up with ex-Blizzard developers calling themselves Second Dinner. I just know that they're gonna go with different developers, start making these games, and really put these together and make their own little MCU for the video game universe. Now for my last thing I'm looking forward to, but definitely not least, is Miles Morales side missions. At the end of the DLC expansion, when you saw Miles with Peter both having on the Spider-Man mask, with him about to teach him how to swing Spider-Man to the Spider-Verse style, then you just know that that dynamic in the second game is gonna be off the charts. And I just can't wait for that little dynamic they have with Miles jumping in. He'll probably have his own little missions, and Peter will have his mission. So I believe they're gonna make Miles a different character. You know, kind of how Batman, when they had the first Batman game, it was just Batman, and then they had Batman and Catwoman. I feel like that's gonna be the dynamic with Peter and Miles. Miles is gonna be side missions, Peter's gonna have his main missions, and they're gonna cross paths every now and then throughout the game, which I really can't wait for. And it just makes me excited to know that Miles Morales is finally gonna be playable as Spider-Man in a video game. So whenever Spider-Man PS4 2 comes out, because I really don't know when it's coming out. But yeah, so let me know in the comment section down below, what do y'all think of Spider-Man PS4, and what do y'all think of my review? This is my first game review. I'm not gonna do this often. I'm only gonna do this for games that I actually play a lot, and to be honest, nobody has time to be buying all these games, so I usually pick about 2 or 3 games to play throughout the year. I played God of War. I may review that, but it just depends. So let me know down in the comment section below how you think this review was, how I can make it better, and tell me what you think about Spider-Man PS4 downfalls and where you think they really achieved that. So yeah, that's it for the video. If you enjoyed this, make sure to let me know by hitting that like button, subscribe, and share this with your friend, neighbor, dog, or just that person across the street that thinks that Spider-Man 2 is still the greatest video game of all time, because without him, this wouldn't be possible. And with that, I'm out.